It's our SKOR North Vikings schedule unveil watch along. Manny Hill right there, Danny Cunningham, Judd Zulgad. Let's get to it. Let's start with Manny, then go Danny, and then go me. 16 games, 17 weeks. We know who they're playing, and now we're going to predict how they're going to bounce back
Predicting the schedule.
from an 8-7-1 season. Does Kirk Cousins bounce back? And we are going to get to some juicy primetime football.
This
too.
does not feel right without.
Bye, Phil.
This does not feel right without NFL music blaring in the background. NFL Films music. Yes, we need that behind us to do this. I don't feel comfortable doing the schedule game without it.
Professional football has been around in America since the 1920s.
All right. Week 1. Atlanta Falcons at home. Manny Hill, the birthday guy as of tomorrow. Kick us off. What do you got?
I got the Vikings winning that one at home. It feels like it would be kind of like the San Francisco game last year, the first game of the season, where they're kind of the visiting team's kind of hanging around a little bit, but I like the Vikings to pull it out at home.
I don't like the Vikings in that one. I think Atlanta is going. They don't have a choice. They're going to have that bounce back season. I think that'll be a good start for them.
In a rematch of the 2017 season opener for the Vikings, when they opened in Adrian Peterson's first ever game, regular season game, against the Atlanta Falcons, and he caught a wheel route pass for a touchdown, which I believe was the only pass he caught for a touchdown for like the next 5 years. And they beat the Falcons. The Vikings will win. So I've got the Vikings winning. Manny has them winning. You got them losing to the Hawks. This is very disappointing.
No, the Falcons.
And it comes full circle because
the Hawks play in Seattle.
It all comes
Come on, football.
Full circle because remember the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons that day,
Mike Zimmer. Well, that was the Petrino team, right?
Yeah.
And then Petrino walked away.
Harrington was starting at quarterback for Atlanta. Yeah,
he's with Joey Harrington.
At,
you were about 3.
I remember him.
Joey Harrington
was not good.
All right. Week 2 at Green Bay. Manny Hill.
That is a loss.
That is a tie again.
Are you serious? Are you keeping track? Or
Seth is.
Okay, who's keeping track?
They're gonna tie again.
Why are you even on this show if you're gonna come up with that crap?
What if it happens? It happened last year. How can you rule
you
it
really
out?
Are gonna make Seth put a tie in this game.
Yeah.
First of all,
absolutely.
I hated that tie.
That's fine. You hated the tie. You hate a lot of things, but I'm okay with that.
I am gonna go in lockstep here with Manny. Week 2, it feels like Rodgers is going to probably be hot early on. I do think the new coach is going to benefit him. I do think Green Bay is going to bounce back. So I will say a loss, 1-1 after 2 games. They return home to play. Say it, Manny.
The Oakland, Las Vegas, soon to be Vegas Raiders. And,
the Raiders.
That's a win. I think that's a win.
I'm with you there. Oakland's not very good still. That is a W.
But do we think that Oakland's going to become pretty good during the course of the 2019 season at some point?
I am not a believer in them.
I think they'll be a little better than what they were last. I mean, they were a dumpster fire last year.
They could. They really could have used another edge rusher last year. They would have been a lot better if they had one of those.
Khalil Mack, maybe.
Khalil Mack would have been a great.
I'm going to say that this game's going to be closer than is expected. The Vikings eke out a win, but I'm gonna say this is not a blowout. And the Vikings will probably be favored by a touchdown. It's gonna be a closer game, but yeah, I'm with you guys. I got the Vikings at.
That'll be an interesting matchup because we'll probably see Antonio Brown versus Xavier Rhodes.
So you're 2-1 at this point for the Vikings.
2-1, yeah.
I'm 2-1.
I'm 1-1-1.
You're 1-1-1. Week 4, we get a quarter of the way through the season. Vikings play in a place where they never really play well. If the Bears are good, if the Bears are bad, Soldier Field, they just don't play it that well. Manny Hill at Chicago.
I think the Vikings eke out a close one. It's early in the season. The weather's not going to be quite as bad. It's late September. The field won't be quite as sloppy at Soldier Field. I mean, unless it rains or something like that. I think the Vikings will eke out a very close one against the Chicago Bears, and they'll go to 3-1.
I think Harrison Smith's going to have 2 interceptions, and Mitch Trubisky and the Vikings are going to win.
Every year I keep expecting it's going to be, okay, they're going to go to Chicago and play well. Every year I do. And I did cover, I think at the time I covered the team for the Strip from 2005 to like 2010 or 11, 10. And they won, I think, once in that time there, but so many games they played crappy. Oh boy, this one's tough. I'm going to say they lose that game.
Okay.
It's going to be close, but they're going to lose that game. And then we start the second quarter of the season at the Giants in the second of back-to-back road games.
The Vikings, every time they go to the Meadowlands, whether they win or lose there, it's always a really, really strange football game. I mean, you remember the Josh Freeman game, the Monday night game, where he was just brutal.
There was the Eli game. Was that like 2007 or 8 where he threw like
Yes.
18 picks and he was awful?
Yep. And then there was one
Sure, it
one
wasn't
year where the
2018.
Vikings
Yeah.
there was one year where the Vikings scored 3 special teams touchdowns.
Oh, that's what
won.
Yes, that's what
And
I'm thinking.
it was like a pick six.
I was
and
at that
then,
game.
like,
That's what I'm thinking of.
they had like a pick six and then like a punt return and like Noeldy Moore had a kick return or something. And Eli was not very good. And so that weird things seem to happen when the Vikings go to the Meadowlands. I'll call that a win.
The only thing that could possibly be weird in this game is if Eli Manning plays well. He won't. The Vikings will win.
I'm with you guys. I just hate the Giants. They're gonna base their attack around a running back, which is fine. If you have the rest of your team's good, they're really not.
They don't have Odell anymore.
They could really
That's a
use a
win.
star wide receiver there.
Oh, don't say that. You've got him for your
I know,
club, the
it's so
Cleveland
nice.
Browns.
The Browns got Odell.
You know something bad's gonna happen there.
Watch your mouth.
Cleveland, things look too good.
Watch your mouth.
He's gonna break a leg.
Are we gonna play their schedule game next?
Sure, when we flip to our Cleveland-based audience, Danny.
Yeah.
I do wonder with
Yes,
that
Manny.
game, though, very quickly.
Yeah.
I wonder if
You have to go quick. It's a watch-along party.
if Kyler Murray is somehow drafted by the Giants, like if they use their 2 first-round picks to move up and take him at number 1,
Yep.
wonder if he'll be starting by then.
I don't think so.
5.
They are so loyal to Eli Manning. I cannot see it happening that early in the season.
Do you guys think? See, my problem with the Giants is based in the fact that to me, their GM Gettleman, I don't get what he's doing.
No.
So what you just broached would take a really gutsy, and it would also be putting a quarterback who's considered too small by traditional executives. I do not see the Giants doing that. Like it made sense when you said it, but when I think about how they're run, it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got a win. Both you guys got wins against the Giants?
Yes.
All right. The Vikings return home to face the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday, October the 13th in another noon game.
Loss.
Where's your optimism? They're going to win that game. Carson Wentz will probably be hurt. They'll win. They don't have a good backup quarterback anymore. Vikings will handle business.
Boy.
Thinking really long and hard about this, Judd.
Yeah, this one gives me trouble. This one gives me cause for great pause.
They all should because it is April 17th.
But I'm going to go with a loss there.
Oof.
I'm going to go with a defeat there. Yeah, I don't have enough faith yet to reel off a bunch of wins, and I really think that they're going to win the next 2 games. So I'm going to give that one a loss. And plus, I'm the guy who looked at the Buffalo game last year and said, "That's Buffalo. They're going to kill Buffalo."
Mm-hmm.
And the same quarterback will be starting against all these teams that start against Buffalo. At Ford Field on Sunday, October 20th, Manny Hill.
That is a win. I am not a believer in the Detroit Lions. I think they'll be a little bit improved because they were such a dumpster fire last year, and they went and got Trey Flowers, and that'll help their pass rush and their defense a little bit. But I still think Matt Patricia is an idiot, and they are a dumpster fire, and the Vikings will go into Ford Field and win on October 20th.
Last year, we learned that the Minnesota Vikings are not good enough to avoid the "what are you doing" loss that you just brought up against Buffalo, and this might be it. I think that they could very well lose this game at Ford Field against Detroit, and that's what I'll go with here. I'll go with a loss against Detroit in a game that you're like, how did you lose to the Lions? But they're going to.
I'm going to go with a win here, keeping in mind, too, Danny, that to your point, though, the first half of the game at Ford Field in 2018, the Vikings were inexplicably awful, embarrassingly bad, and Detroit gave up a Hail Mary pass for a touchdown, and the Vikings then came back and won. So I see where you're going, and I don't disagree that there could be a game like that. But I think that there's a good chance that Patricia has to be blown out during the course of 2019 at some point before the season's done, just because he's such a brutal coach. So I'll go with a win for the Vikings.
I should probably sit up straight.
It doesn't matter. Go ahead and slouch, Rami. Okay, before we get to the next game against Washington. Seth, can you give us what we have so far for records?
Danny 4-2-1.
Okay, 4-2-1 for Danny.
Manny 5-2.
Okay.
And optimistic Judd at 4-3.
Okay, I'm 4-3. Danny, you 4-2-1. Thanks for the
Yes.
tie.
You're welcome.
And 5-2 for Manny Hill. Thursday, October 24th. And I believe if I'm looking at this right, man, this is small print. The first primetime game of the Vikings season at home against Washington.
Why don't you just pull up the tweet with it?
Because I've got the thing right here.
But that's bigger.
All right, just leave me alone. I'm
You're
old
man.
and I just want to be left alone. But anyway, it's a primetime game against Washington. It's Kirk Cousins against his former team. It's Case Keenum, we think, returning as the starting quarterback to US Bank Stadium. It is, let's just say, what I expect to be a whole lot of self-inflicted pressure on the starting quarterback in purple, Manny.
And that is why I'm going to pick Washington to win this game.
What is
Thursday night game, short week. All eyes are on number 8 in purple going up against his former team. Until Kirk Cousins shows me that he can win a high pressure game, and I know Washington is a dumpster fire and they're bad and it's Case Keenum and all that stuff, but all lights and all eyes are shining on Kirk Cousins, a number 8 in purple. And until he shows me otherwise that he can win a game where everybody is watching him, I'm going to pick him to lose it. So I'm going to pick Washington to win this game in a shocker.
what is Kirk Cousins' record in primetime games? Do we know?
It's terrible.
It's like
I think it's 5.
17
I
or
think it's
something.
5-13.
It's awful.
It's going to be 5-14 after that one. That's a loss. That he until he wins a primetime game, I'm not picking him to win a primetime game. So that gives away clues for how I'm going the rest of the schedule, but that's where we're at.
That's not going to be good for the Vikings or Kirk Cousins. Okay, so this game is going to be really, really tight. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be 14 all, fourth quarter. The Redskins I don't like that much, but I think they'll play a tough game. I think if Keenum does start, which I would expect he would, that he comes in and plays well and tries to show his former coach that he's not a train wreck or a disaster. Late in the game, Kirk Cousins drops back to pass, looks over the middle. He sees a streaking Stephon Diggs at the Washington 10-yard line. He makes the pass, and it's picked off by Washington, and they go down to kick a field goal, and the Vikings lose. A heartbreaking loss. And then the next week or the next day, we all talk about what's wrong with Kirk Cousins in prime time, and man, was that a bad gag. And is this what you really get for $84 bleeping million? So the Vikings lose.
That will be a great Friday sports talk radio topic. I can't wait.
Oh, it'll be great. It'll be a great Purple podcast that night when Collar and I. And can you imagine Collar? He's already insufferable.
It's going to be awesome.
Hey Matthew, if you're watching, what's going on? Okay, so now we have and we are now in the midst. We're 3 games in to what you guys accurately said is going to be probably a season-defining portion of the schedule.
Yeah.
And now we are to the first Sunday in November, November 3rd, noon at Kansas City, coming off a Thursday night game. So you've had, what, 8 days off, basically, from not playing.
The Vikings have not won in Kansas City since what year?
74. I mean, they don't play there that much.
Right. They
but
play there about basically once every 8 years.
yes.
Once a decade, essentially.
Yeah. But 74 is the last time I think they won there.
It is a road game and a very tough environment to play against the MVP of the league and the Vikings. I think the Vikings have very minimal chance of winning this game, so I will call it a loss.
At this point, the Vikings season is fractured after coming off of 2 losses against Detroit and Washington, and they're going to get smoked in Kansas City, and it is.
Well, tell me more about this.
It is not looking
So
good.
are teammates criticizing Cousins publicly?
Especially after
Talk to
Kirk's
me.
loss against Washington, it is not looking good with the inexplicable loss to Detroit the week before. Judd, this locker room might be on the verge of a mutiny.
Do we have a coaching change concern right now in the Cunningham world?
I don't know.
Not immediate, but like after this, like, are we talking about that coaching?
I mean, I
it
got to
sounds
get
like
through.
we are.
I got to get through the rest of the schedule. I got to see how they bounce back.
Okay, at Kansas
It won't
City,
be well.
Zimmer is going to. If you don't think that the day the regular season came to an end, that Zim didn't sit down with his VCR and VCR tapes and beta tapes and start watching Patrick Mahomes film.
Do they make VCRs still?
I don't think so.
What's a VCR?
Oh, a VCR is the
Come on,
greatest gadget of all time.
I am the
I had an
young
old
one.
school one. My
I am
parents
the
had one of
young
those
one
800
here.
pounds one. 800-pound one.
Stop trying to steal my shtick. I'm the young one.
Anyway, Patrick Mahomes, Zim is prepared. They're going to come in and they're going to try and shut him down, and they're actually going to stay close. I'm going to tell you what is going to transpire. Fourth quarter, this game is going to be very tight. Kirk Cousins is going to drop back to pass. He's going to look over the middle. This time it's going to be Thielen streaking over the middle, and Kirk Cousins is going to go and try and throw the pass, and it's going to be picked off.
Who's going to pick it off? I mean, do you have a name?
Judge
Stradamus?
You know, I don't, because Kansas City had a bunch of personnel changes on defense. I'm not seeing that clearly. But the fact is, for the second consecutive game, Cousins' inability in a pressure situation to lift the Vikings is going to cost them, and they lose this game.
Terrible.
All right. Seth, again, if I could call on you to give us the records that we now have after the Vikings have, well, in Danny's world, fallen apart. In my world and Manny's world, they've gone into a bit of a tailspin.
Manny's 5-4.
5-4 for Manny.
Danny's 4-4-1.
Danny 4-4-1 because he's a punk and decided to put a tie in.
Judd 4-5.
4-5.
What do you mean, me saying they're falling apart? You have them with a losing record. They're 500 in my world.
You had them losing at Detroit, though.
Okay.
Okay.
You had them losing at Green Bay.
So Sunday, November 10th,
had them tie-in.
the Vikings go to Dallas. It's another primetime game because it's a Sunday night game, right? Am I seeing this correct?
I don't believe so.
It's just a regular Sunday game.
Oh, I thought I was seeing a. Hold on a second here. Let me. You're blind. Let me see if I wear glasses. You unappreciative. Hold on a second. I got it right here. Hold on. By the way, thanks for sticking with us as we do our schedule unveil. SKOR North.
It does say
SKOR North at
720.
50. Yeah, listen, you two. It's a 720 game.
But
on a
it
Sunday night.
is subject to flex schedule.
Yeah, but it starts off as it would have to be an absolutely awful game. And that means Dallas, not the Vikings, would have to be bad because they're not going to flex out of a Dallas game unless Dallas is a dumpster fire. So, like, if the Vikings aren't good and Dallas is good, it's a night game.
Well, this is not good news for the Vikings then.
So what we have here is
the Vikings
right now,
should be
let's just
hoping
assume
this gets flexed.
Let's assume they're not going to flex out of a Jason Garrett,
That changes my pick.
Jerry Jones game. So anyway, I'm glad I saw that. My eagle eye. Manny, what do you got for us on Sunday, November 10th? And let's just assume it's a primetime game.
I know the Cowboys are talented, and there's some potential there with the nucleus that they have. I'm just not sold on Jason Garrett as a coach. He's been there a long time. There's been so much speculation about, is he going to last? Is he going to get fired? That whole thing. I think the Cowboys are going to fall back a little bit, and I think the Vikings go on the road and they win at Jerry World.
So Kirk Cousins can't win primetime games, but this one he does. The only reason is because Dak Prescott is trash. Kirk Cousins is the better quarterback.
Oh, that's a hot. So you're going with the trash. See, I don't know what to make of him, but I don't call him trash. So
I don't think he's very good.
Really?
Yes, that's my hot take. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I think that despite the fractured locker room and the tailspin that this team's in, they find a way to win at Dallas and look to have a little bit of a salvageable season, moving to 5-4-1.
And the thing about teams in this town is they often end up not being good, but it seems to me like teams in this town, every time that you want to say, you know what, they're dead, just get the draft pick, go home, right?
Mm-hmm.
They rebound. Like they're not successful, but they have this weird, we're not dead yet, we'll show you. And then you get the locker room, a whole thing of you guys didn't believe. I'm with you guys. I think they win. I think if the season's going like we think, and things are basically on a trajectory where we're all saying, oh boy, you might have a coaching change and Cousins is a mess right now. It's this weird feeling that they go to Dallas and win. I'm with you guys. So we all say win, which is surprising. And then the week before the bye, which is week 11, Sunday, November 17th, back to a noon game. I can see that crystal clear. Shown by CBS because it's at US Bank Stadium and it's a AFC team. The Denver Broncos. And not Case Keenum, but Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco sucks.
That sounds like a man. That sounds like a man who's ready to begin his birthday 2 days off
done.
And he's worked a long day.
Joe
Joe
Flacco is
Flacco
done.
sucks.
Okay. Vic Fangio.
It was
he's
bad
coaching
here.
Denver.
You're right.
He is.
The
Joe
Baltimore game
Flacco-
was hard to watch.
Joe Flacco is cooked. He is done. And I cannot believe the Denver Broncos. I cannot believe John Elway traded for him. But
I can't. It's
That-
John Elway. He
yeah.
can't.
Can't identify quarterback.
Yeah.
It's sad.
yeah, he's
Well,
done.
he thinks he
the
got paid.
Broncos. I like Vic Fangio a lot. I don't know how good of a head coach he's going to be. I think he's going to do really well with that defense with Von Miller and those boys, but the Broncos are not very good. Joe Flacco sucks, as I mentioned before, and the Vikings will win that game. I think they'll win that game rather handily.
Well, Manny stole my thunder.
This watch along became so much better when Manny just said Joe Flacco sucks.
No, it was Joe Flacco sucks.
He's done.
He's
not elite.
cooked.
I love it.
I was just going to say Joe Flacco is not elite, therefore the Vikings win, but Manny one ups me. I'm just going to have to say Vikings win this one and move on.
Bounce back continues. 2-game win streak. Vikings beat Joe Flacco and the Broncos. Yeah, I think Joe Flacco's pretty good. I mean, come on, guys.
He's not elite.
Okay, week 12, bye week. So
They
here's
can't
what
lose
happens.
that one, baby.
Cousins goes out in the backyard to play some touch football. Receivers open over the middle. Cousins throws the ball. It's picked off, and some
Wait, is
12-year-olds
this
beat
this
him.
is Thanksgiving week too, right?
Is this thing? Yeah. Nice
he's
catch.
he's gonna lose his turkey bowl.
Nice catch. So they're off that week?
So they're off the week of Thanksgiving.
Oh.
So are we gonna get like an Instagram post from Kirk Cousins of him like
Oh, yeah.
making a turkey or like?
Well, that depends on the record, right? Oh, he's pretty tone deaf. He might do it regardless.
And so not only did Judd go from thinking that
This
he might be able to get out of the house on Thanksgiving to go cover a game, to now Judd has to spend more time at home with family and friends because the Vikings don't play at all that week. So he has no excuses to leave the house from Thursday until Monday
You know what
morning
this-
when he comes back to
You
the
know what
office.
this just became? A 28 beer weekend. Oh, you know what? Let's back up. We got a tweet here from David, and he's right, and we missed it. Adrian Peterson
Yeah,
comes here with Washington.
Oh yeah.
We didn't even
that's
mention
right.
that. We were delinquent.
we were too busy just
Oh,
worrying.
you know what? That makes it. Adrian Peterson's going to catch a touchdown pass.
From Case Keenum.
You know he is. You know this is going to happen. You know he's going to catch a touchdown pass. Wheel route. Take that, Vikings. All right, so the bye week is done. The Vikings then we pick things back up in week 13, Monday night game, second consecutive season playing a prime time game in Seattle.
Loss. That's just they're not going to win in Seattle. That's a loss. That's all I got.
So they're coming off of a stretch where they were feeling better. Then they lost that game prior to the bye week, and Kirk Cousins lost his Turkey Bowl, and now they head to Seattle. And Judd, it's not looking good. I think that they're going to struggle. I'm forecasting a rainy night in Seattle. It's going to be tougher.
Because it's December in Seattle. That takes some guts.
You're right. It
It's
does.
really going to rain in Seattle?
Yeah, and it's going to be tougher to catch that football than it is to catch the fish at the fish market. They're going to lose this game. Kirk Cousins is going to have a rough night.
By the way, that fish thing, I've been there. It's very, very cool. I have no interest in trying to catch those damn fish.
I want that to be a Judd athlete challenge.
No, because they might
so bad.
because those things fly at you. Those
I
dead
know, that's
fish
why I
fly
want
at you. I
it.
don't like that. Flying fish.
That's why I want it.
All right, at Seattle, December the 2nd. Yeah, you know what? I'd like to say upset or something weird, but it's until I'm proven wrong about, until the Vikings go into Seattle, this version of them, and win a game like that, I can't do it. So I think we all say loss. Week 14, noon game again, at home, the Lions.
That'll be a win. I know the home games. What's interesting about Mike Zimmer's time here, home games against Detroit have always been very, very tricky. I think the Lions have won. Twice at US
Well,
Bank
didn't
Stadium.
the Vikings won last season against Detroit at home? I believe that was the first time the Vikings have won in US Bank Stadium. I think they had lost the first 2
First
years.
two, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're
16,
right.
17, yeah.
You're right.
But
Including that OT loss that Prater got him to OT with like a
Mhm.
59-yard field goal or something.
And then the
Love long
next
field
year
goals.
was the one.
Big leg.
Next year was the game where Dalvin Cook got hurt and lost 14-7.
And he dropped the ball.
Yep.
All right, but you're saying win?
Yeah, this will be a win.
I'll go win as well. I think that they avenged their terrible loss in Detroit earlier this season, and They set
You're the only
themselves
one
up.
that got them losing that game.
I'm sorry.
You're the only one that has them losing that game.
I know. That's fine. They set themselves up to potentially make a run for the postseason with 3 games left to go.
I'll go win as well. I gave it just a quick second of a thought.
A quick.
And
To give him a loss.
then you thought of Matt Patricia again, and then you were like,
Yeah,
oh,
I can't do
Vikings
it.
will win.
Although he might be out by then. I don't know. I'm the more I think about him, the more I think that there's a guy that might not survive a second full year. He's just a pain in the butt. All right. Week 15 at the LA Chargers at a soccer stadium. The interesting
Before we
twist,
do this, can we reset our record so we know
Oh, of
what we
course we
have
can.
heading into
Seth?
the last 3?
Manny 8 and 5.
8 and 5 Manny.
Danny 7-5-1. Judd 7-6.
Wow, I'm really negative.
Negative.
So you were what, Manny?
I'm 8 and 5.
You're 8 and 5. Okay. All right. Last 3 games, Chargers in San Diego, in Los Angeles
Against the Clippers.
at 7 in a primetime game. So the important thing here too is the next 2 games now, and 3 of 4 are primetime Kirk Cousins games.
What's ironic is that the Clippers actually used to be in San Diego briefly.
They did.
They were in Buffalo before that, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Buffalo Braves.
Buffalo Braves, yeah, that's right. This one,
Good job.
I'm actually having a really tough time with this one.
Why is that? What's so tough about this?
I think
Because
I know why.
Because I think the Chargers are a pretty good team, but it's the reason why I'm struggling with it is because I think it's a winnable game for the Vikings, but it's a road game and it's Sunday Night Football. It's prime time.
Yep.
And I don't know, man. I'm struggling with it, but I'll go win. I think Cousins finally gets it done.
I'm not struggling with it. It's a road primetime game. They're going to lose.
All right, here's my struggle. And actually my struggles are many, of course, but they really start with the Kansas City game, November 3rd. I contend that in the last 2 months, it's so hard to know what teams are going to be. Like there will be 1 or 2 teams on the list that we're going through after November starts that are going to fall off the map. Like the Chargers could be not that good.
I think it's hard to know what teams are going to be in September as we do this on April 17th.
Well, but I've got
you can make that case.
But I've got a better feel. I've got a better feel for Oakland now not being good enough to beat the Vikings at home. Where if they played late in the year, the Vikings, and they played at US Bank Stadium, I might struggle a little bit more. Like the Chargers, I think Rivers is going to be 38, 39 by this point. Like eventually he's just not going to be good. And he's always been good. That defense, though, I think that defense is pretty reliable and consistent. I hate to do this, Mike Zimmer, but I'm going to say loss. That's a tough one, though. I'm very, very borderline on that one.
It's tough because I think the Chargers are very beatable on their home field because they just don't really have much of a home field advantage because half the crowd is usually.
But they went
for the other team.
12 and 4 last year, though,
Yeah,
right?
But they had a couple of
I know
home losses that made you kind of scared. Like lost at home to Denver last year that kind of had me scratching my head. Like,
yeah,
what was that? So I think the Chargers are susceptible to getting, having a clunker at home once in a while. So
Week 16, the Green Bay Packers Monday night game at US Bank Stadium as the Vikings close with division games at home.
Oof.
At home.
This is very, very tough, but I will go with the Vikings winning.
Okay. And Seth, at that point, what record does that give Manny Hill?
10 and 5.
10.
So they're in the playoffs.
So you got them as a playoff team right now. It's a primetime game.
It's a primetime game. It's
Second
the
time.
Packers. It's the second time this
Shootout?
team's seeing
They go
Kirk
to a shootout?
Cousins. They're not going to a shootout. They're not going to tie.
Okay.
They're not going to win. They're going to lose this one at home.
Now, are you okay? So when you say that too, are you predicting that the Packers at this point in time have won or are close to winning the NFC North?
Yes.
See, I don't disagree with you necessarily.
I think that there's the chance that the win against the Vikings on December 23rd gives them the NFC North crown.
Seth, that has Danny at what?
7-7-1.
Oh, then
They're not a playoff
So
team.
he's got him in the playoffs. You've got changes coming.
Yes.
You got Zimmer and Spielman probably fired.
Yeah, at
I'm
7-7-1.
I just think Kirk Cousins is
Ziggy is not happy.
I
He
wouldn't,
is
and I
very
would
upset.
understand that because he paid $84 million to a bad quarterback.
Boy, it's Christmas time. I should be feeling giving. To the
It's not
purple.
Christmas time. It's April 17th.
Well, but right now we're at Christmas time with our predictions. Third consecutive primetime game, and this is really it too, because this is Cousins' second year of the 3-year contract. If Danny's right, it's now just blown up. Like you're gonna be saying what you do at quarterback for 2020.
You're looking at drafting a quarterback in the first round.
I think you're absolutely right. Packers come in here. All right, so here's what happens.
Look into that camera right there.
Here's what happens, folks. Kirk Cousins is on the sideline. Game is tied late, fourth quarter.
What's the
Packers
score?
have the ball. It is 21-21. Packers have the ball. Number 12, under center.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
Takes the snap, drops back. Anthony Barr, who the Vikings brought back.
Specifically to break Aaron Rodgers' collarbone?
Against all odds, because Anthony Barr was going to be a Jet. Anthony Barr provides the pressure that the Vikings so badly need. And as he bears down on Aaron Rodgers gets rid of the ball, and it's a touchdown, daggering the Vikings into submission. I hate to do it. It's Christmas time, but Packer fans should be happy.
So in that scenario, and you and I are on the very...
What's my record, Seth? With that loss?
7-8.
So you're 7-8. I'm 7-7.
Oh, I got changes coming too.
Do we think Zim gets fired after that loss? Do we think he gets, or
No.
with it being the final game of the season coming up and a short week to prepare for Chicago, do you think they let him play it out?
Oh, they played out.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, no changes. No changes are made until Monday, December 30th, because the last game of the season, at least for us, because Manny has them in the playoffs, if nothing more, as a wildcard team. December 29th, they close the season for the fourth consecutive year at home against the Bears.
The Vikings are, according to my schedule layout, the Vikings are 10-5 going into this game.
Correct.
The Green Bay Packers will also be 10-5 going into Week 17.
Boy, I love what you're doing.
The Packers will win their game against, assumably, the Detroit Lions, because they'll be playing the divisional opponent, the other divisional opponent. The Packers will win that game, finish 11-5.
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings need to beat the Chicago Bears. If they tied with the Packers at 11-5, the Vikings would have the tiebreaker over the Packers and thus win the NFC North. So the Vikings basically win the game, they win the North. The Vikings will lose this game to the Chicago Bears at home. They'll still make the playoffs as a wild card team.
Okay.
This loss will give the Packers the NFC North crown.
Okay.
And then the Vikings will go into the wild card weekend as the number 6 seed against the 3rd seeded Packers and lose on wild card weekend at Lambeau Field. So the Vikings will finish 10-6.
Now you've gone too far. I mean, you've really gone too far, because I'm not going that far. Wow. That sounds like lots of fun. Okay, doom and gloom.
I've got them at 7-7-1 heading into this week after they just lost to the Green Bay Packers, essentially eliminating them from playoff contention. I've got the entire locker room hating Kirk Cousins, and they quit on him, and they lose this game to Chicago by 2 touchdowns.
That is incredibly negative, but I've got them at 7-8 at this point. And if you're 7-8, you ain't gonna go out against the Bears and try it that hard. Yeah, and by the way, this could change. My predictions could change, but I got a loss here.
So you have them at 7-9.
I have them at 7-9.
And Zim fired.
That's December.
Spielman fired.
That's December 29th. On December 30th, we find out the changes are coming.